Canon films. Oh. That's a way to start off a commentary.
Oh yeah. Hi everybody, this is TheHande doing a commentary on the Masters of the Universe movie, and I'm joined by RetroKaiser.
Yeah, yes, actually, it's quite the opposite. I'm the one that's hosting this commentary, and I am joined
Yeah,
with.
yeah, yeah, you're the one hosting this. I always believe that when you start a commentary, you introduce yourself at the beginning so people know who the fuck you are. And
hmm
those were Dolph Lundgren's and Frank Langella's titles that went on. And this is probably the
Ah,
only exterior shot of Castle Grayskull we're going to see in this
it's
movie.
a beautiful shot, though. I love it.
It is, and it's a shame that we don't actually see Castle Grayskull outside that much because this was of course Gannon Films, and Gannon Films was kind of they were like a more low budgeted movie studio, so it was actually a big one that they grabbed the license for this. I love the shot of the city, and we see the back of Christina Pickles' head. Masters of the Universe. Oh yeah.
I love that rainbow. Love the Aurora Borealis effect, starring
Yeah,
Billy
yeah,
Barty.
it is very. It's definitely very 80s, especially with the colors going off crazy like that. But I always liked it. I always thought it looks very stylish, and it's very appropriate for this movie as well.
hmm
It gives it a very magical beginning.
Oh yeah,
What do
definitely
you,
it works with the fantasy theme.
yeah. Why do you think that they went with just Masters of the Universe? They kind of dropped He-Man. I mean, it is the name of the franchise, but
Maybe they wanted to keep this as like its separate what's that word? Continuum away from the actual series.
continuity.
Yeah.
Continuity. Yeah. Yeah. I don't mind. It's a simpler title. Like it would have been like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It would have been like on a marquee. It would have looked kind of messy.
Yeah, maybe they got rid of He-Man because it would have sounded too childish for a big cinema film.
Yeah, yeah. Which I totally would see if they now did a new He-Man movie. They would totally make it like just He-Man in capital letters. There was actually another theatrically released He-Man movie before this. It was the Secret of the Swords, and it was basically the first 5 episodes of She-Ra edited together. It did get a theatrical release, but it bombed, and there's Gary Goddard. This is his only feature-length movie that he's ever directed. And he also talks on this movie's official commentary. So once you're done listening to us morons, you could go and listen to the proper commentary. Oh, here we see we saw Grayskull in the background in the distance, and here he comes in, Mr. Frank Langella, Skeletor,
Yes.
and with the Havoc staff, no less. That's cool. A little detail that they got right about the movie, about the
I
mythos.
You're gonna hear this a lot. You're gonna hear me going on about how awesome Skeletor is portrayed in this film.
Yes, and Langella was the very final actor to
Oh, one of my
direct this
favorite
movie.
shots of the film. That
It
just the
is. Yeah, I mean the
just
bottom half, like in the pit, that's like a matte painting, but the rest of this room was they actually had to. I think they had to like combine like two big sets to make this whole throne room in order to show it in its like full glory. So it was a big undertaking. Here's Meg Foster as Evil Lynn.
a very pretty Evelyn, beautiful Evelyn.
Mm. With a much more down to earth headdress, and here he is, Langella. And if you look closely into his eyes, you can see them wiggle a little bit. That's a condition that Langella actually had, that involuntary eye movement. It's only something that I recently started to notice in his movies, but that's because when I was a kid, I had the TV cut of this, and little details like that tend to get lost.
I love the Lynch look of his costume now. Like it's not more, it's like more Lynch King-ish rather than the Skeletor-ish, which works really well in this film.
Yeah, it has a nice like they made like the costumes and everything a little more down to earth, but without losing a lot of the detail. And that's what I think. Like you can tell like Man at Arms is Man at Arms, even though he's not green and yellow like the toy, for instance. And Tila, you can tell Tila is Tila because she's the only girl. But yeah, well, not the only girl.
Well,
I
this
like the
is
subtlety of this animation too, like traditional cell animation, basically, on of him drawing the power from the sorceress.
mm,
Langella was the final actor cast. They offered this role for many actors, and
oh,
many of them
I love that effect too.
yes, this hologram effect. This looks really awesome.
Yeah, it's aged really
This
well too.
Yeah, and that's the thing with special effects. Like, if you can be very subtle about them and use them like where they're needed. I mean, that's why I don't think this movie suffers from the fact that it was made by a small independent studio, because they didn't waste money. They didn't try to do stuff that looked too incredible. And here he is, Dolph Lundgren. Lundgren, as it's properly pronounced. And this was his first starring feature. He appeared in Rocky 4 before this as what is the character's name? I forget.
Drago
Draco.
something.
Draco something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
before
just know him as the I must break you guy.
I must break you. It's funny that it's the Swede playing a Russian in a movie. That's always hilarious to me, because for a Finn, there is no more opposite of two like national stereotypes than a Swede and a Russian. But yeah, and here we have beautiful backlit animation effects.
Mm.
And but the thing I love about Lundgren's performance is that he takes it seriously. Like, he doesn't like yuck it up or like, well, he makes a few funny faces here and there, but unintentionally. And here we have Man-at-Arms and Tila joining the fun.
Very, very awesome portrayals as well, just like the rest of the characters so far.
Yeah, and you can tell, like, these are very appropriate costumes. Like, they're very stripped down, the colors are very subtle, but you can tell, like, from the little details, for instance, on Man-at-Arms. They did, like, emulate the toy look a little bit, but...
He does look like he's dressed for war. Oh.
Yeah. Well, he is a Man-at-Arms, Tila definitely like doesn't resemble the toy that much, but then again, like most versions of Tila, if you think about it, like her thighs are bare, which in an actual battle situation would be kind of not very good. And here's Billy Barty as Gwildor, brilliant Billy Barty.
I remember being really worried when they introduced this character, thinking, "Oh no, this is going to ruin the film." But as you see, he's actually a lot better than what you'd think he'd be.
And Billy Barty really does make this movie for me. Like, and also, he does serve as a kind of a replacement for Orko, because portraying Orko for this movie with its budget and limitations,
it's just impossible.
At the time, it would have been incredibly costly. So instead, they got the brilliant Billy Barty, who had a ridiculously long career. It goes back to the 20s.
Whoa.
He was a vaudeville actor as a child, and then an extensive career in movies and television. And this was one of the most painful roles that he had to go through because of all that makeup. But
one of my favorite.
He took it like a champ. He took it like a champ, basically. Yeah.
One of my favorite gags is coming up right here.
You mean the locks?
Yeah. I just love the charm in this gag that's coming up.
That big thing,
and
that
little thing.
Yeah. And by comparison, like Billy Barty's ridiculously long acting career versus Dolph Lundgren, for whom this was only his third movie appearance ever. Like, he did Rocky 4 before this, and then he had an uncredited, like literally like a 5-second appearance in the James Bond movie A View to a Kill. He's one of the Russian FBI guys, and I think he gets shot by Christopher Walken, who's like the Russians are trying to like muscle him a little bit, and he's not having it. So, and Dolph gets shot, and of course he appeared in that movie because Grace Jones was his girlfriend at the time, and she's of course in that movie as well. And the Cosmic Key, one of my favorite movie props ever.
Oh yeah,
Look at that. That's beautiful.
For an independent film, they use their budget really well.
Yes, and this movie was shot mostly, I think, in chronological order, absolutely without a second unit. So the director, whom I mentioned before and whose name I've totally forgotten, Gary Goddard, so he had to oversee everything. He had to oversee everything, which is a lot of work when you think about it for a major feature-length film. Because usually they have like a second unit doing like action scenes and things off the side, so he had to do everything. They had to do everything, so they did not have the luxuries to do what a lot of big Hollywood movies do. And this is a great set too. I love Gwildor's little workshop, and it has so many like weird props and shit in it. Yeah.
I love how they have to
Billy
crouch
Barty.
down too.
Yeah, that's
That's that's
hilarious.
that's
It gives a
attention
little
to
hobbit,
detail.
feel, doesn't it?
Yeah, paying good attention to detail. I think
Mm.
we've avoided the obvious. What do you think about
Yep.
He-Man's hairstyle in this film? The mullet.
I mean, it's okay. Like, the alternative would have been to give him a polka cut.
Oh, that would
So
look terrible
no,
in
no.
live
So
action. It'll be like
yeah, I mean, they could have made it work. I'm not saying like I don't have a problem with the polka cut, but it makes him more. It's more appropriate here for like an action hero thing.
or more
And like I said,
appropriate
like
for Prince
they
Adam.
emulate the look of the toy line. If you think about like, there's all the detail you see on He-Man's baldric and his shoulder pads and things. Like the original baldric, it was just a smooth piece of plastic with a cross on it.
Hmm.
So add all that additional detail, because you have to remember that these were all characters who were based on, these little toys molded out of plastic originally. So adding that level of detail, and I think it works. It works. It adds a lot of detail. And here's Karg. Karg, one of my favorite like little incidental characters. It's a shame he doesn't get to do more in the movie, but I love that voice of his. He's one of the iconic figures of this movie for me personally.
It's really
One of many
freaky.
actors.
It's pretty freaky too. It definitely makes you feel a
Yeah,
little
yeah, it is.
unsettled while watching this film.
Like, yeah, there's a little like a goblin toad thingy.
I don't know.
It's just
Yeah, I don't know
left
about
and right.
you, but when I first
Yep.
watched this movie, the first thing I thought of when I saw it was like, "What's Eddie doing in this film? The Iron Maiden mascot."
I never thought of that. Yeah, with the big heavy metal hair, basically. Eddie, nice, good one, good one. I love that kind of a goofball character. I love it when bad guys are screaming orders at their lackeys. It's always really funny to me. And
Oh,
this is Christina
yeah.
Pickles.
Another thing I
Uh,
really enjoy about this
yep.
film, well, at this point, it gets right to the point without making you confused on what's going on.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's a good thing. Like, of course, He-Man was a big deal. I think everybody, he was kind of in the public consciousness. Uh, yeah, but they kind of go like there's a lot of like additional layers of characters that they kind of left out, so it's a little streamlined. But I don't think it's any worse for it. And it would have been confusing to have like Buzz-Off or Stratos or whoever just kind of show up out of nowhere.
Well,
Something that kind of wish they would have had like more of the iconic henchmen in this movie, but the villains galore I think is appropriate, because when you're telling an action story, there's not a whole lot of time for any dialogue unless it's like really good. It might end up bogging the movie down a little bit. Like they have Evil Lyn and they have Beastman. It's like the bare minimum in my view.
mm,
It's good. Yeah.
they don't have that Aquaman, Aquaman, that, the sea creature guy. Well,
Sea creature. Oh, Merman.
yeah,
Merman.
man.
No, no, no. Merman would have been asking for too much. I love Frank Langella. He's one of the greatest actors ever.
One
He
thing I like,
played.
yeah.
Yep.
One thing I like about when he's giving it, I like how he has like that cocky little smirk on his face while doing it, like that sense of enjoyment of, getting one over He-Man. Like I just love that. It adds a
Yeah.
little charm to him, like those little things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he also like does the role with conviction. He's not half-assing it at all. And this is a
No,
this
he's
is a
not.
uh, uh, long career in theater, Broadway. He played Dracula in the 70s. Um, he was also the bad guy in Cutthroat Island, and also in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Junior. Funny enough, a small role, but always worthy. I love seeing Frank Langella. His voice is amazing. That's the
Mm.
thing. Like, I wish that Langella would have done more voice work, but his first love has always been theater. Like he's very much like a theater man, and then his movie career is kind of like a secondary thing to everything. So
I'm
that's why
really, yeah.
you don't see him that much in movies again. But he's such a great voice. He could have had a brilliant career as a voiceover artist
Personally,
easily.
it's better that they went that route rather than a hey man. If that was a bad
I mean,
skeleton,
yeah,
like that
yeah,
would
that's
have
a,
just
that's
that would have just been weird for this movie.
yeah. I mean, like I said, they kept like the iconic details, but they were able to kind of bring it more down to earth.
Mm.
but still with a fantastical element like this, opening the gateways between dimensions and things like that. That's always what I loved about He-Man was the. I've said this before the thing that always that makes me such a huge He-Man fan. I love the blend of fantasy and sci-fi. Just a sci-fi-ish feel like lasers are flying around right now, but then there's like sorcerers and magic and shit. It's like two of my favorite things put together, basically.
I also like the war feeling of this. Is like something big's going on. Like you take it
Yeah,
seriously.
yeah. I mean, this definitely is a bit of a Star Wars thing, having like Skeletor all of a sudden has this huge army of cronies at his disposal, but. Because originally the original He-Man, it's more like one-on-one, almost like a superhero thing, villains and good guys, a team of heroes versus a team of villains. But here it's more he needed like a. It's understandable that Skeletor would have needed a big armed force basically to take
Oh,
over.
another great part coming up here. Whoop!
Oh yeah, I love this. You fumbled the ball, boys. And now he's. And
Oh.
this makeup is also brilliant. Like you can still like see his facial expressions and things. This makes me think of the friggin' Terry Pratchett movies, the TV movies with the Grim Reaper in them. And there it's just a still like a skull puppet. It looks terrible. Even though it's Christopher Lee doing the voice, like he just looks terrible. I wish they would have done something similar to this in those. Because, a guy with a skull for a head, you know,
Yeah, just
it's such a
yeah.
cool image. It's such a cool image. There's so much you can do with it, but yeah, you can when you get lazy down to it, then it looks like a terrible like biology lab skeleton or something.
Just look at Ghost Rider.
Also, I love the sword too. There's so much detail. Oh man, this was a life-threatening stunt that Billy Barty had to do. Basically sticking his head in the water with all this heavy makeup on him. So yeah, like I said, he took it like a champ.
Yeah.
Also, Dolph Lundgren had to do almost all of his own stunts on this movie as well because, well, quite simply put, like you can't find too many stuntmen with that physique.
That's true.
Yeah, the actors who for Man at Arms and Tila too, like very good actors, but both of them have had mostly like they're mostly worked on television. There are very few like theatrical forays, and this movie is one of the few occasions. I think Tila is a little underrepresented in this film, but Man at Arms definitely gets to deliver a few good war stories and things.
Mm.
Look at Wilder's staff, like all the lights blinking on it. Like there's such rich detail in this film, so it's really
And
nice.
and and may we remind you, this is an independent film with a budget well spent.
Yes, yeah. I mean, this is I think this put up the standard for like toy line based movies for many years to come.
Was
Like
there
this is
ever
something. Yep.
a toy line based on this film?
Yeah, there was. There were action figures that were kind of sort of semi incorporated into the main Masters of the Universe toy line. So, and there was also a comic book adaptation of this as well. So there was a lot of marketing for
And a
this.
video game, as we found out earlier
A
tonight.
video game, a video game that was only released in Europe, but it was actually made by Gremlin. So I don't have a high opinion of the He-Man video games, but that one might be interesting. I would actually kind of be interested to see that.
I love the scenery in the scene.
Oh,
It's
this is one of
very.
my favorite gags. This is one of my favorite scenes. What a hideous cry. Maybe I can communicate with the poor creature. I love Billy Barty. He's one of my favorite short actors of all time. He's right up there for me with Hervé Villechaize and Dan Rappaport. Like the great dwarf actors. You might have seen Billy Barty also in the movie Willow. He was the elder dwarf in
Hmm.
that one. And he was also one of the dwarves in the movie Legend with Tom Cruise and Tim Curry. I barely remember him from that one. Have you ever seen the movie Legend?
Sadly, I have not. Oh
Yeah,
no.
it was 2 years before this, and it stars a very young Tom Cruise. It's a very straightforward kind of fairy tale
I got
fantasy
a bit
film.
freaked out at the video cover because it had like this big devilish looking guy on it.
Oh yeah, that's Tim Curry. He plays evil. And here's Courtney Cox.
This is
Uh,
a film debut, if I'm not
Film
mistaken.
debut. Yeah, this is I think this is Courtney Cox's very first role in anything, and of course, this was years before Friends.
He was in a Bruce Springsteen music video before this.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
Mm.
I mean, this is funny because I saw this movie obviously as a kid, taped off the TV, and long before I became a fan of Friends. And it was funny when I did become a fan of Friends, then seeing this movie again and realizing, hey man, that's Monica. That's Monica from Friends. So that adds a layer to it.
Oh,
I
how
think
I
that's another thing is that they bring the movie to Earth. And as a kid, I didn't question it, but obviously it's again as a cost reduction thing. But I think it works honestly. Like I think they don't delve too much into the cheese.
um
And
I
this has
also
always been kind of yeah. Hmm?
I like how when they go to Earth, it doesn't feel forced. You know, like a
Yeah, yeah.
forced situation. It just feels very natural, like a dimension no one just happens to be Earth.
Hmm. And this kind of caters to like a childhood fantasy of mine. I always like to imagine how my idols and heroes from like these fictional universes, how they would react to kind of like everyday life in my in my in my part of the my like world or things like that. So that's one of the reasons I really kind of another reason why this movie resonates so well with me. I mean, obviously now that as an adult you can I can tell like okay, so they did this to kind of they were originally going to have a lot more scenes in Eternia. This is something I know about the production of this film, but they had to cut back on it a lot because of it. But yeah, like you said, it doesn't feel forced. They got a very natural feel to it, and they don't go into too much like cheese factor, like a little bit with Quildor maybe,
Mm.
and his antics.
Well, he's supposed to be
But
a comic relief character of sorts.
yeah, yeah, so it's appropriate. And like I said, like the great thing about this is it doesn't treat Masters of the
Ah,
Universe as a joke.
another great part coming up.
Oh yeah, this is another one of my favorite scenes. There's a lot of great repartee. There's great writing in this film.
Mm.
It always makes me sad about the state of dialogue in modern movies, like how one-dimensional and boring it is
Yeah, there's no
usually.
charm or fun in it.
Yeah, I'm not always hungry. 30 days without rations. uh, oh man, that must have been a tough siege for Man at Arms. I like the fact that he's kind of like an old veteran, basically. So yeah, like you said, it's a more haggard, uh, you know, rugged veteran character a little bit,
Mm.
but still a little jokey.
Yep.
Like yeah, here's Quildor off to his shenanigans again. I love that it smooches like completely like messes up his beard and everything.
It's detailing. You gotta have that little dirty detail.
Yeah, yeah, and also because that's not his real mouth and everything.
Mm.
And this part always makes me laugh because of the Filmation show. Like I recognize that it's separate from it, but the fact that in Eternia they're all vegetarian. I hope we're not spoiling the movie too much. We assume that you have watched it before you watch this commentary.
If
I wonder
not,
why they put the meat on these little white sticks. Maybe this was an animal. Oh yeah. What a barbaric world. Never think while you're hungry. Like great line delivery overall. This is just brilliant. I always have a little funny thought break on this part because in the TV version that I have taped off TV, like the commercial break starts right at the end of that scene. And if we learn the backstory
those
of
are some.
Julie's dead parents.
I've
Yep.
always had a somewhat of a problem. Is I always thought those tombstones looked way too clean.
Yeah, they're kind of like movie tombstones.
Yeah, like
Yeah. But Well, it has happened fairly recently, so I suppose they are kind of new new and polished still. And
Yeah.
this is another aspect of the movie that could have been like a real, that could have like dragged the movie down is this
Oh
human
yeah, I
relationship,
agree. Oh,
Julie
I,
and Kevin.
I,
They did a good job with this too, that they move very quickly to the point where we see like, okay, why is Julie about to leave? Like she's had this horrible, her parents died in a plane crash, and yeah, this actor, I don't have his name here, but who plays Kevin, like another actor who did not have a huge film career, but he's done a lot of TV work, and also kind of a He-Man tradition. Ended up working on Star Trek. He's appeared on two different iterations of Star Trek, the Next Generation and Voyager. He's played different characters in both.
no, don't pick that up. That's gonna lead to trouble. Don't pick it up.
Oh yeah, they've. I don't know. This would be kind of funny to find this thing.
If they, yeah, they wouldn't be able to get away with that these days. If someone saw that, they automatically think bomb, and, and then all the
Oh
police and
yeah,
whatnot would
yeah,
be all over it.
yeah. Times are different, and I say that Star Trek connection thing because one actor related to He-Man who's had a big run in Star Trek was uh, Alan Oppenheimer, the original Skeletor. He's also appeared in three different iterations of Star Trek. Uh, One of them as a Klingon, so he's had a also. It seems to be a tradition with He-Man actors usually go into some kind of sci-fi stuff later in their career as
I
well.
don't know about you, but the background behind them does it just me? Or does that look a little bit like a Stargate?
That's the iris that opens
Ah,
up when yeah, at the end of the movie where when moonrise happens and the powers of the universe are
spoilers.
in.
Yeah,
Well, like I said, you better have watched this movie because we're going to spoil a lot.
I forgot about that actually. I
Yeah, yeah,
like
that happens towards the end. Yeah,
fantasy, illusion, all this stuff running
right.
in.
Well, fantasy illusion. Yeah, this is like a prom thing that's going on. It's a funny little detail that it's about to be prom night as Julie is leaving, and then it all gets trashed when Skeletor's minions show up. Actually, that's one of my favorite scenes when we see the lineup of villains for this movie. It's one of the great villain introductions. Okay, now he's about to activate the key.
I
There
love
he
all the
goes.
moving parts on that thing and the colors.
Yeah, it is like I said, this is one of my favorite. Like, so much of it is real. Like, this, of course, is an optical effect, but
Yeah,
uh,
I never cared too much for this effect, to be honest.
I like it. I think it's beautiful, especially the little dots of light flying around. I think it's really magical. This guy creeps me out. This bald minion and there's another one in the back. This is a great screen, by the way. Kind of reminds me of the Street Fighter movie, where
Of
Bison had that wall
course,
of television sets.
of course.
Pretty good graphics. Pretty good, nice graphics. Pretty good graphics for like 1987. Very convincing, I have to say. Like there's a lot of like old sci-fi stuff that doesn't quite. I watched Aliens recently, and I realized like how 80s all the tech is. Okay, here we have the Blade, Sarad, the least utilized of these henchmen, the Lizard Man, and the Beast Man. Here he is. And Karg. We've already seen Karg. Have you ever noticed the crosshair on Blade's eye patch before?
No, I have not.
Yeah, that's something I've only recently started to notice myself. But he has like well, it's either a crosshair or some kind of like a cobweb pattern.
I
This
know
is
when
like,
I know when I first saw that snake guy, the first thing I thought was Reptile from Mortal Kombat. In a way,
okay.
like a beefed
Yeah,
up.
he looks really vicious, and he has that helmet, so you can't quite see his face. and
I
then he
love.
gets killed off. The
I get.
first guy who gets killed off, and it's a bit annoying that we don't get to see more of Sarad in the film.
I love how the bad guys look, very fantasy-ish, but they don't come off as goofy at all. Like they come off very serious and threatening, which
Yeah,
could
yeah, that's
which
another.
could have easily gone wrong.
Yeah, definitely. But they were kind of intent. Another thing is that they kind of intentionally crafted most of them for this movie. Like we said, Evil Lyn and Beastman are the only one of the henchmen who are from the toy line and who had like the cartoon interpretations. Evil Lyn too. I was talking about the head. I was trying to say about her headdress. It's a lot more like simplified from what it was in the toy line and in the cartoon, where it's more streamlined. And it's actually the sorceress who's actually wearing a headdress that's more like the original Evil Lyn headdress.
As you pointed out
But
in
yeah,
my review on the next round, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
yeah, but it would have been ungainly on her because she's moving around a lot more, and the sorceress sadly is kind of stuck in one place for the whole
Oh,
thing.
hell's breaking loose.
This is a great effect too.
Yeah, it feels very natural. Feels like it's
Yeah,
actually happening.
yeah, this is how you use special effects like wisely. Like you don't break the illusion. Scan the perimeter. Karg's just barking orders, and here's the janitor, or not the janitor, the custodian, kind of shows up,
Ah,
gets
for
beat
a
up.
PG film, I always found the scene to be ridiculously pushing it. Like just how bloodied he gets, beaten and bloodied he gets.
Yeah, but you would be if somebody beat you
Mm.
all over your face, you would probably be bleeding. And you can see like murder in like Beastman's eyes when he pulls the gun. It's just really vicious.
Mm.
Although I have to say, like really incompetent villains. Very true to the TV show, if you will. Like one teenage girl, they can't catch her. Either that, or Julie's actually, you know, she's not entirely helpless. I guess is one way you could put it. She does contribute a little bit in the fight when He-Man finally comes to fight the bad guys.
Smart. I've always thought it was a smart
What?
move crawling. I always thought it was a smart move crawling under the stairs, to get away. And then that happens.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Blade is just kind of these guys are not following Karg's orders at all. Like he told him that they should take her alive. I love that. I always love that little that dart gun that he has on his Blade had when he shot the darts. Yeah, total chaos, man.
One of the things I love about this film.
I do think this is kind of nice seeing He-Man a little bit here, but I don't know what the beeping thing on his hand was. Like, what was it homing in on? I feel like it was supposed to be homing in on the key, but did they have the frequency for it?
This is a spooky
Okay.
alleyway.
That never stops bothering me, that pizza sign that's backwards. I mean, I know you're supposed to, like, look at it from the other side, the neon sign with pizza on it. Yeah, Azip.
As it. Maybe it's one of
Azip.
those exotic nightclubs.
Like Tech Noir.
Yeah.
It would be funny if they turn around the corner, it would be the Tech Noir from Terminator.
I don't know about you, but I'd be pretty freaked out if I ran into someone like that in the middle of a dark alley.
He-Man, yes. A half-naked guy, muscular guy in a cape.
It's, yeah.
Which, well, you gotta, you know, suspend your disbelief just a little bit with these. Oh, this part makes me laugh a little bit too, which is coming up when he hands her the gun. Here, take this. Protect yourself. that makes me laugh. Like,
I bet you
man,
that.
you ass.
I
Left
bet
a defenseless girl.
you,
But
the,
that makes
the
me.
NRA would love him.
Um,
Um,
This is really like down to earth fight that's gonna happen like here. I didn't see what that actually was he threw, or did he throw anything? Did he just mime and it was a sound effect?
Boom.
Yeah, this is, I
Ooh.
love this.
Take that.
Yeah, terrible shot, terrible
Yeah.
stormtrooper. Like he was right there. Okay, here's her little contribution. She took down Sarad, but now Beastman shows up, and this is a pretty iconic He-Man scene. Like somebody grabbing He-Man from behind and him having to break free. I mean, you're laughing, but that does happen a lot on the
I
show. It
know.
happens in the
It just
episode.
sound. It just the innuendo that
Yeah,
pops up.
this I love too. The sword fight. I mean, it could go a little faster, but I guess we're kind of used to like more like kinetic sword fights these days. Oh, it
Yeah,
does.
I reckon they were probably worried if they went faster, it would have stuffed it up a little.
Yeah, but again, I think it sells that the fact that the swords are heavy, in my view, a little
Mm.
bit. That was fun. I was enjoy that when he throws. And this is an iconic He-Man scene too, like him throwing one of the bad guys at the other bad guys.
This is when you realize that these ain't no children's toys.
Yeah. I mean that's the thing that they don't like emphasize also in this movie a lot. That He-Man is supposed to be like super strong, like ridiculous strong. But I think the only moment where it really, really shows is when he pushes down the statue during the final battle.
Mm.
Now they're having to ask about the key and everything, like what's going on. We go to and now we rejoin the B storyline of Kevin going to the music store with the
Uh,
thing
I like the line that's coming
key.
up here. I loved it. Uh-oh.
What line is that?
Oh, I thought we had an online problem for a second there.
Huh?
No, no, we're
Okay.
still going.
Yeah, no, we just no. But what's that line you were talking about?
I said I like the line that this guy says here about the thing, like kind of
It's
a bit.
Japanese.
Yeah, that's
Oh, that's okay.
it's just a bit difficult because I can't hear the movie from this end, but I know the
Okay.
words though because I do love this movie. I know what they're saying. I know the sound effects from heart by heart.
Far out, man.
I reckon
There's a
that.
kind of a, like orgy of evidence that this guy works in a music store. Other than the music store, like he has the little the thing around his neck. What's that called? Scarf, and then the leathery the leather cap, the scorpion's cap.
And a weird
Yeah,
80s
yeah,
jacket.
yeah, definitely. Well, any like article of clothing from the '80s kind of tends to expose itself.
I
Oh,
love
did you
this.
notice that Kevin's wearing a tie, by the way? Just wearing a tie for no apparent reason.
Someone bad's in it. I love this set again. I love the sets in this. I love the way they shoot the set.
I
Like
just
look
love it
how.
that he has access to the police radio too. Kind of over convenient.
I always thought that he was a guy that was the like sort of drug innuendo there. Like he doesn't want to be busted.
I mean, I mean, yeah, the guys always doing. People in music stores always doing illegal shit. That's such kind of a convenient thing, I guess.
I kid you not, I was in a music
Kevin has
store.
it. He's in terrible danger.
I kid you not, I was in
All
a
right, we're
music.
about to have one of my favorite actors in this movie come up pretty soon. I can't wait to see him.
Okay, I kid you not, I
You
was
know
in
who
a.
I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, this is the principal, so to speak.
Well, well, Principal in another
Yeah,
iconic '80s movie, but not this one.
yeah, I know
This
exactly.
this also looks pretty desolate for. But yeah, it shows that the Skeletor's guys can actually do like real damage to the real world. I mean, once He-Man shows up, like it's mostly game over. But yeah, okay, and here he is, James Tolkien, aka Principal Strickland. In this movie, he plays Lubick, the detective.
I love his outfit, the classic detective outfit.
And yeah, that's the thing. Like he has this very like hard-boiled look to him. So he looks very appropriate for a police officer. And it's kind of funny to me. It's really funny to me. And he did this movie in between like the Back to the Future movies, I think. I forget what year was. The first one was 84. But yeah. It was between like the first and second Back to the Future when they did this. So and it's funny because he has the shotgun at the finale. And you know, in the second Back to the Future movie, when it's the
Slackers!
yeah, but remember in like Back to the Future 2 when it's the alternate 1985, you know, the one where
Yeah,
everything's gone to shit,
yeah, that's what
and
I'm
he's
remembering.
yeah
Slackers!
yeah has a shotgun in that yeah.
Yeah, the thing that always disturbs me about this character, spoiler alert, but then again, you should have already watched the movie at this point, is how trigger happy he seems to be. He's always got like
For a
that,
cop.
yeah, he's always got like
He's
that
definitely on
itchy.
edge. But then again, once we get to that point, like there's reason for him to be on edge.
Hmm.
I also love that they don't just kind of just stop to explain things to these characters. Like again, like you said, the movie like has a really good pace to it, in my opinion. It doesn't get bogged down by superfluous details. Okay, Quilter's about to come in with his more of his native transportation.
I always love that style.
uh,
I always love that style of car, the pink Cadillac.
yeah, and he's modded it too, so now it has what warp speed or something.
I actually saw one of those cars in a antique shop, believe it or not. I wanted to buy, but it was like several. It was
Oh
expensive.
yeah. Okay, as a kid, I never understood what was going on in this scene. I used to think that was a table in front of Skeletor, which had like a crystal ball thingy on it, and now it was only much later I realized, oh wait, that's Evil Lyn right there. So, I don't know, I had a weird visual eye as
Yeah.
a child.
When
I
I
saw things
yeah,
that weren't there, really.
it's like
But
this.
this is interesting. This is interesting because this is like showing like an intimate side to Evil Lyn and Skeletor, which wasn't really there in the Filmation show. Like Evil Lyn like openly like despised Skeletor and was always planning to kind of overthrow him.
Like when I see
So this is
this,
kind of this.
this when I see
Yeah,
this, yeah, I thought the same thing. Like this sort of shows there's something deeper going on between the two.
yeah. This is really the first time there's been like suggestion of like like something romantic going on between them. Although they do then hammer the point home, like how obsessed Skeletor is in defeating He-Man, to the point where Evil Lyn, you know, abandons him at the end during the final fight.
Like I always pictured this movie as like being so deep into the war between He-Man and Skeletor, like they're at their very last desperate attempt to actually stop him.
Yeah, you could think about it that way. And you know, if you listen to we of course did a whole podcast about He-Man with Darabka. You know, he has his
I
own
wasn't on
theories
that
about where all
episode.
these characters,
I
where
wasn't
all these
on that
characters.
episode, but I listened to that episode last night. Believe it or not, it's a good one.
And yeah, and he has these weird theories about how Blade is Trapjaw or something. Oh wait, we're about to have the first main character death. So yeah, this is scary. Like this scared me as a child to see this. I love it that his hand is one of the last things to disappear, vaporize basically. This is also very classic. Beast Man begging for forgiveness from Skeletor.
I also like how Beastman is sort of looks more like a hybrid between Beast and Man in this, like a Beast Man.
Yeah,
Like
I mean
really
he
lives
does
up to
look.
his name.
Yeah, he does look like the rough outline of the character. He doesn't have the eye makeup that he has on the Filmation show and everything, the face paint. But it is like the basic idea of the character is still there. I mean, it's a little bit of the Bane syndrome from Batman and Robin that they made him basically a grunt, but at the same time, like it never bothered me that much. Like I said, it's kind of like getting the bare minimum of the characters, and they've got these other henchmen to kind of even it out as well. So, yeah, but what I was about to say, yeah, about that Darabka has his own ideas about how this movie possibly connects to the Filmation continuity, but there are recognized there are different continuities and series of He-Man, and I'd like to personally just think of this as its own continuity
Mm.
and its own take. So I don't, and because I'm able to accept that. I'm able to accept that there's different versions of, say, He-Man, the same way there are different versions of Batman, the same way there are different versions of Superman and
The
whatever. So
multiverse theory.
yes, basically. So to me, it's always, and I always like that. I always like different interpretations of things. So this doesn't like break my worldview because there is also like that group of people who really hate this movie because
Because of
they grew up with the
you know
Filmation
who?
cartoon and deviated so
Well,
much from it. I love it that
well,
Lubick is just letting him
yeah.
talk for this
I
long.
always thought people hated us because of that one reviewer reviewing this movie and how much influence he has, even though he's just a novelty character. I'm not dropping
Uh,
any names, but I think you know who I'm on about.
yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, but personally, personally, I love this, and there of course is a lot of people who really like this. Generally speaking, the in the He-Man community, like people seem to like this film. Oh, by the way, have you noticed the little pin on Lubick's tie? It's covered up now, but he has a little handcuffs pinned to the his tie. I just noticed this.
There's a lot.
I
No, I
was
didn't.
play with fucking around with the key.
Yeah, I never know.
What
I
a
never
beast
noticed
this
that, but
show.
there's a lot of new things to spot in this movie.
Yeah, it is one of those great movies. You always
There's the
notice something new.
backwards pizza sign again.
Yeah.
Oh, that space, that little transportation.
Yeah,
Oh,
I like that. They had those. They had these little ships as well. They
oh.
didn't have like the iconic ones like the Wind Raider and things, but
I think look who just popped online.
oh yeah, let's see if he can.
Should we pause the recording? Oh,
No, we can
the
keep
show
going.
must
But
the show must go on. Mind you,
I love also this. I love this piece of technology, which shows them what happened in the past. I'm kind of baffled by how it works, but it is. It's a really clever piece of machinery. I really like it myself.
sort of like scanner. Now, one thing I like about
Yeah.
some of the GPS technology in this is like
Yep.
watching like old films like RoboCop, the original.
Hey, guy.
All right,
So
joining us mid commentary
I'm
is
so
Darabka.
sorry.
Don't worry, you still have half the movie. We still have half the movie left to go.
Oh man,
But
I feel so bad.
as I was saying, like old movies like RoboCop, when you watch them like a definition, like higher definition, like you see the GPS device, it's just a light bulb screwed into a piece of wood.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Hey
anyway,
guys,
joining us mid commentary
just
is Darabka, the gaming beast.
This is a
more like
now.
the late beast. I'm really sorry. For some reason, I thought it was Tuesday, so I go out to work out with my brother, and then this happens. I'm so sorry. But
Yeah.
anyway, okay, we have still some stuff to do.
Another huge He-Man fan joining the commentary.
Now this
So
is
we're glad to have you.
Yep,
now this
late
is
man. I'm now known as Late Man, as
Yeah.
Lator, and
late
it's like my action figure is not even in the box. It's just like
Yeah.
nothing there. So
late
Okay.
man and the
Hey, now,
disasters of the universe.
if you look at his, look, we just pointed out Lubick's tie has a tiny pair of handcuffs on it.
oh, nice. Have you ever noticed that the guy the younger guy was in Voyager? Yeah, Star
Star
Trek
Trek.
Voyager.
Yeah, we talked about a little bit about these actors. He's
Yeah.
been on two different iterations of Star Trek. He was on Voyager, and he was
Yeah,
actually in The Next Generation as well.
as a different character. Yeah, he was with Wesley Crusher when they messed it up. Okay, right. Here they have the dimensional jumping machine that is like a
The
keyboard.
Cosmic Key, yeah. We talked about the
Cosmic
Cosmic Key a
Key.
lot already. I think one of my favorite, like I've said this already in the commentary, but one of my favorite movie props of all time, like all the moving parts and the blinking lights. It's
It was
yeah.
it was pretty cool. It was also very funky in '80s. You probably talked already a lot about that.
Yes, we
Uh,
have.
but whatever, I'm here, so it's cool.
Uh-oh, my
I
video
hope.
seemed to...
What do you make of these ships that the bad guys use?
I
My,
think they're really cool. What I found interesting with the design with the bad guys is that they went for a more sci-fi look, but they didn't abandon the fantasy stuff.
Yeah, we talked. Yeah. That's
Uh,
that's another thing we've talked about is the blend of fantasy and sci-fi, and we talked about that they made this very evocative. Like you can tell like Man at Arms is Man at Arms and everything. Like the costumes are very evocative of how the characters originally looked, but it's very like down to earth, and they basically like managed to make this down to earth, but they kept the iconic details. So like even with Beastman, you can clearly tell who he is.
Dude,
yeah. What they did is
sorry.
Yes,
We're gonna have to pause because my video sort of froze on me, so we're gonna have to pause it for a quick second.
Yeah, it froze
Okay.
for me too.
All right.
Wubba lubba dub dub.
Okay, you probably talked already about Evelyn and how pretty awesome she was depicted in this
Well,
movie.
That was a
little
cheap
bit.
jab to
You
the
can add
face.
to it. You can add to it.
Well, I just wanted to say that I did like her a lot, and this is, if you think about it, this is also more darker stuff. Like you actually see blood and stuff and everything.
Yeah.
You know,
I mentioned
this is technically a PG movie. It's one of these weird PG movies where you got okay. One thing I will say about He-Man, Masters of the Universe, growing up in this time, they basically Star Wars the shit out of this movie. Like even if you look at the
Yeah, we talked. Yes, we talked about that, and
yeah.
and also on Evil Lynn, we talked about like this is really the first time ever. The scene when already is gone, but that this is the first movie that actually shows some romantic involvement between Evil Lynn and Skeletor. Like in the Filmation show, like Evil Lynn hated Skeletor and was always planning to overthrow him. So it's kind of interesting. It adds a lot of new layer to the character.
There's the Wild Wild West necklace right there. I always dubbed it.
I love all this. I love all this weird technology that they use. This is where the sci-fi buff in me just kind of kicks in when I see this.
It's also fitting with He-Man because they had always weird sci-fi and magic shit.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And
so it was like.
And the thing I've said about this that they added a lot of, just costume details, but also like little character details. It just makes the world of the movie much more rich, in my opinion. And that's why, even though this was an independent movie, made by an independent studio, it utilizes its budget and resources really well.
It's actually, when it comes to Golden Globus movies, who are known to make really shitty low-budget movies, a lot of Chuck Norris shit too.
Oh.
And I watched a lot of their stuff. So it's like, this one is actually, that was actually one of their best movies, not just in comparison to what they did otherwise. Okay, I like this shit. It's also where it's like, as I said, Star Wars was still fresh into people's minds.
Yeah.
When did this came out again? 80, it
87.
came out sometime after the 87. So it came out way.
Mm-hmm.
It came out way after the big boom of He-Man. So He-Man was a little bit past its prime.
Yeah.
But it was still a good time to release it.
I mean, it was, of course, it was still like running on TV because He-Man was first run syndication, and She-Ra had ended the year before in '86. So yeah, it was still fresh in people's minds, but I don't know. Then maybe the fact that it might have been distribution thing that kind of bit this movie in the ass because it was a smaller studio.
One thing I would have liked maybe a little bit if Teela would have had more an outfit closer to what she had in the cartoon. But
yeah,
I was like Man at Arms. Yeah. You probably talked about this,
and also
already.
The fact that Teela, in most iterations, Teela, of course, has bare thighs, which you think about like a battle situation is not ideal.
Well, it was also cartoons.
Yes.
So it's like it's also a toy line. It was literally originally a toy line.
And also that's a costume malfunction just waiting to happen.
Speaking of costumes, I'm sorry. I like that little necklace he had around. Like the little light glowing from under it makes it look very sinister. Like
lasers, yes. Oh man, I love the 80s. I'm sorry, but
we've had so many lasers then. But hey, yeah, I do love it. I love it.
I know. This
80s backlighting effects, generally speaking, like
right.
I made that joke a long time ago in a He-Man video. Backlighting equals magic. So, but it does, really does.
It's
it has a magical feel to it.
there's a
You don't.
I love how the only
one thing I want to.
there's a chili on the fridge.
Yeah, there is a chili on the fridge. Also.
I had this freaking toy, and he had his cosmic key, which was way less impressive as the toy, but you know, he was actually what they did. They didn't make a separate toy line from the toy. They just added.
Yeah.
They had 3 toys. They had Saurat, you know, whatever, and the robot lizard guy, and they had Blade, and they had Gwildor, and they put them in the comics universe instead of like making a separate, because you could consider this kind of a separate universe.
That's more than have them in the comics universe.
What they did actually, what happened with the characters, actually I have a theory that, you know, obviously they did is they redesigned characters to the point where they just made them new characters. Like Gwildor is obviously a redesign of Orko, which is lower budget, because Orko would have been really expensive if he was always floating.
Yeah. We talked about this already.
Didn't have to. Yeah. Oh, of course. This is the problem when I come late.
Coming in late, yeah.
It's like,
oh, there's still good shit to come. There's still good shit.
Oh yeah.
And why
one thing I want to say, have you talked to us about help? What?
And I was to say, with your theories, way to ruin our advertisement of that White Devil podcast when we were saying if you want to listen to his theories, listen to that episode, and you've just given them away.
Yeah, because we did a whole podcast with Darabka on He-Man, and he elaborates on his theory on this movie's connection, continuity.
Oh yeah, I did. But
and just remember,
that's why I'm really.
And just to know, even though this movie is only like over like an hour and 45 minutes, the podcast with them on it goes for over 3 hours, man. It's a good listen. Every 6 minutes is good.
We didn't just talk about the movie. We talked about. At least I talked about the toy line.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm having a little bit dinner.
We talked about all things He-Man, really. So it was generally speaking a podcast about everything He-Man related.
Oh man, big fucking lasers.
I would have wanted those.
Stupid Darth Vader knockoff sword purpose.
I'm not sure if that is a laser gun necessarily, but well, they never fire it in the movie. It seems like such a tease too.
Yeah, I know.
I'm fine.
Yeah. I like the little emblem.
It's also interesting.
I like the little emblem that was on the one-eyed guy's chest, like more detail. Yeah, Blaze.
Yeah. And I told Kaiser this before. Darabka, have you ever noticed that on Blade's eye patch, there seems to be like a crosshair or maybe like a cobweb design of some kind?
I didn't notice that, but you know what I'm thinking actually with Blade? I don't know. I probably told you this in the podcast, but that he's probably a redesigned Triclops. I don't know if you talked about this here already.
Yeah, we mentioned that the whole theory on the podcast.
Of course. Okay.
But yeah, Blade is yeah, it's an interesting character, and we of course, I always love the one-on-one sword fight that he has with He-Man. Like it's a little moment.
Yeah.
Little moment what he says in that I've been waiting a long time for this, which kind of gives a little inkling like they have a bit of a past with each other.
Definitely.
It also makes sense if you think about with Triclops, because Triclops was actually one of the only guys of the Evil Warriors that could physically go toe-to-toe with He-Man. So he was as strong as him.
This part coming up, he always found it a shame that they had to smash up such a beautiful music store.
Actually, none of the buildings that you see in this movie, like in the real world, exist anymore. Because there was actually, after the movie came out, there was a huge earthquake, and it destroyed everything that you see.
It was probably when Skeletor actually came to Earth. You know, so it's kind of a documentary.
No, I'm absolutely serious about this. That this location got demolished.
Oh yeah, that sucks. No,
because it was all shot.
Probably a little bit dark.
And you know, earthquakes happened there. So
right. I want to say this. that the idea of traveling through dimensions through the right melody, it doesn't get more 80s than that. So the thing is, this movie
I love it too, though. It's a throwaway line, but I do believe that what Gwildor says, that the universe is music, Kevin. It resonates with me for
that's
like
that's
music myself.
I want to say
I
that's
mean, we're
the
all big
strong.
music fans.
Yeah, I want to say that. I want to say that's the strongest line in this movie.
Yeah, that was one of those movies.
Flaming keyboards.
That was one of those moments in movies. Right.
Goodness
That
gracious, great balls
was
of
one of those moments in movies where it was like they had always a line in these movies, like in The Last Starfighter. They had a moment where it was I don't know if you're familiar with this movie, but it's basically a video game kid.
I know
he likes
that, but I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Okay, you should watch it. It's really good, and they have moments in that too. It's a really interesting sci-fi movie. If you liked He-Man, I can recommend you a couple of movies because they have kind of a positivity to them that modern movies don't have. By the way, what's the name of this chick again who was in Friends? I was
Courtney Cox.
Get her name.
Courtney
Cox.
Played Monica.
Look how freaking young she is. Jeez, it's like how old is
and I mentioned at the very beginning of this this commentary that I wasn't a Friends fan when I saw this movie for the first time as a little kid, and then when I became a fan of Friends, it added a new level to the movie. Like, this movie hits so many pleasure points for me. Like, it's the sci-fi, the fantasy, the music, and 80s backlighting effects, everything. And of course.
Oh, no, I remember now he's asking them what is going on and everything. And I just love how this is the same guy who was the principal in Back to the Future.
James Altman, who played Principal Strickland, and this was in between the second and first Back to the Future movies. And it was funny because we talked about this already as well, that, at the final battle, he has the shotgun, and then in the Back to the Future, he also has the shotgun.
I always said, as a kid, I always imagined that he was actually the same guy, the principal, just he became a cop,
Except that
this is like after the second movie. So no, I know it's stupid, but I always like to combine the continuities for shits and giggles.
Another strong another good moment come up here with Evelyn's magic trickery.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite scenes too. Like, this is where they do give like most of the villains a chance to shine. Well, okay, so Beastman's mostly just a grunt, but like the fact this is something Evelyn is well known for, this whole the illusion. Again, spoilers. I hope you did watch the movie before you started listening to the commentary.
And again, to repeat myself, not only did they shine, but they also get right to the point, and they fit them in proportionately well.
This is.
I must also say, you probably mentioned this, but Dolph Lundgren was definitely the best guy for the role.
Definitely. We haven't actually talked that much about Dolph, but this was very early in his acting career. This is only his third movie appearance ever, and the thing, I said this in my review of this movie, that the thing that I loved about Lundgren's performance was that that he did it, like, he didn't take to it like it was a joke or anything. Like, he took it seriously, and that's what sells it to me personally. I guess Schwarzenegger could have played He-Man, but
I've got the power.
It would have become too self-conscious. That was a funny thing. I only recently watched the very first Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, right.
And it was weird seeing Schwarzenegger. That was like his first real, like, major starring role, and it's without an ounce of like that self-consciousness that he later definitely has. He almost plays it up a little bit in his later movies. Yeah.
Right. He becomes a parody kind of himself, but he's like kind of funny. But Conan was always cool because it was actually it was a role that he could portray right.
Yeah.
And it was like
this is
he did it really well.
Moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got the eyeshadow of evil. Now let me experience this.
The eyeshadow of evil.
What's the friend? What's her name in Friends again? I always forget.
Cox.
Courtney Cox.
Yeah, but that's the acting.
That's a real comic book name too. Like it begins with the same letter.
Well, it could be a porn star name too, if you think about it.
Oh, come on.
I'm a horrible person, but
yeah.
what was her name in Friends? Because I always wanted to say
Monica Geller.
Monica. So
yeah,
Monica gets saved by the Star Trek dude. Basically, I'm just expecting him to press something on his chest, as the communicator, and say energize.
Oh,
and then they teleport up. What a crazy crossover that.
And we talk about Billy Barty, who plays Gwildor, and all the, this was probably his most physically demanding role because he had to do it under tons of makeup. But not only that,
right.
You can see it in the movie. He has a visible limp. So there's one of his legs were like, and Billy Barty, we've talked about him, actor with a long career, starting from the 20s as a kid in vaudeville. So
wow.
Yeah, so this was a physically demanding role for him. Basically, so he makes the movie, and the comic relief probably had the hardest time on the movie.
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to say this with the shotgun, slackers, slackers.
I just love this. Yep. So I just find it so freaking hilarious how he's got no fear against.
I love how
superior weapons,
I love how trigger happy he is too, in the films he's in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now he's seen like the demolition already, so yeah, he's.
Well, he's figuring out that they're aliens and they're much more advanced, so it's like he's not suicidal, but it's fun because one thing I like, even though one thing that some people that say that movie is not so good because it's not mostly it's on Earth. But it was just simply a budget reason, and I'm a fan of dimensional travel, and it's kind of fun to see how they have fun with it. When I don't know if you mentioned this with Gwildor when he finds the car and he says this car was broken, it had a primitive combustion in it. I replaced it. I just love that shit.
Yeah, it's like what we said this earlier, but the fact that they don't make a joke out of it, but it feels very it doesn't feel forced. That's why I think it works, in my opinion.
This is one of my favorite effects scenes, just purely on the effects, how they come through the dimensional gate.
That's the best word to describe it. This is a magnificent scene. It has
the thing is
the magnificence to it. This also reminds me of the BFJ. Actually, has that kind of vortex effect going in it. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
BFJ? Big Friendly Giant.
The BFJ.
BFG.
Oh no, I thought you meant big. I thought you meant Big Fucking Gun from Doom. I was like, what?
Big Friendly Giant. That's an animated movie. It's really good. I recommend.
I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid. That Ronald Dahl.
I haven't seen it yet.
It holds up surprisingly well. But anyway, what was I getting on with?
I'm loving that now. I'm loving this.
I love that little side cannon on Skeletor's little thing because that's something that was cut out from, because I saw this taped off the TV, and the TV version was, of course, it was edited to 4.3 aspect ratio. So a lot of these details on the sides of the screens were something that I never saw as a kid.
Wow, yeah. One thing I will say is I like how the vehicles are designed. I think if they ever make a new He-Man movie, I want them to do more of the fantasy aspect designs like they did in the cartoon or comics or stuff. But still, this was perfect for the time, because at the time, especially after Star Wars, there was a lot of movies that emulate the style, and there was a lot of straight Star Wars rip-offs. This is not really a rip-off. Which one?
Yeah, no, because I think that this movie has a very strong mythos of its own that it stands on. So
yeah.
Yes.
No, this is, I always like, the effect is a little bit old, but I don't give a fuck. They're on freaking flying surfboards.
That still looked good. It was actually the scene before that I think there's a little bit of transparency on one of the Air Centurions.
Yeah. Well,
I love how they just blow the crap out of him.
Green screen was very hard to pull off. Even Superman, which had actually for its time very good green screen, has some moments where
that was a little blooper. Did you notice that Dolph dropped his sword when he ran in?
That's okay. It's the power sword.
A little mistake.
He doesn't need that. He doesn't need to turn back to Prince Adam anymore, and he never does in this movie, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
but
we talked a little bit about that. The fact that He-Man's
that's a cool effect right
power,
there.
that he is super strong. It's not really referencing the movie at all much, except for the final battle when he tips the giant statue.
Here comes my least favorite effect in the movie. That I could not. Sorry, Darabka, but I could not stand that. That part's cool.
It's not really. And by the way, these close-up shots was actually Dolph Lundgren on a truck being driven down which was kind of dangerous if you think about it.
Yeah, but Dolph Lundgren, it was like that's when the action heroes of the day back in the day, they still did shit because not everything was CGI. Yeah, some of the effects look dated, but I don't really care.
Also, in Dolph's case, much like with Arnold, is the fact that there just wasn't a stunt double that could have fit his physique.
Yeah.
So
and Hanu, that truck effect is only dangerous if he was on a rocky road.
But generally, standing on a speeding vehicle is not usually very safe.
Hanu, he said it's a joke because he wasn't Rocky, he was Ivan Drago. Rocky Road.
I'm sorry, didn't catch that.
That's a great.
One thing I will say about
the commentary right there. Silence after a joke.
One thing I will say is just the fucking idea. Like when I was a kid and I saw this, you know what I thought? I always thought that, man, this could be almost like the Green Goblin on the surfboard,
Oh,
and if they would have ever made
think about that.
Because there was a time when I was a kid where I knew there was only the shitty 70s or the shitty 70s live action series.
I love that. I love it.
The only live action Spider-Man
smashes him with the sword. I love it.
I love that, because he actually uses the sword too, which is cool.
It just blows up. That's my favorite part, though.
Well, it's fucking 80s, and it just works. And they could be like robots, actually, if you think about it. But, because Skeletor did, The thing when I was a kid, a lot of times I would just see it as a part of a Star Wars ripoff, but I did enjoy it. But really, there's just some elements, and it was just done because it was fashionable. But it's really its own thing because they're really never in space,
Yeah.
Or doing like space battles, because that wasn't a thing.
Here we go. Really. My favorite effect in the whole movie, just a slow rising of the
Yeah, and it's very subtle too, sinister.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I love.
Yeah.
More animated effects. I love that.
I must say, what's the name again from the actor who played Skeletor? I always forget his
Frank
name.
Langella.
Frank Langella. You probably talked about that.
Yes.
But he was really good. Everybody who I talk to always mentions that, really. Like, even if they dislike the movie, his performance is always they enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. This is the guy. This guy, friggin' long career in stage and film, and played Dracula in the 70s, and just has an amazing presence and an amazing voice. That's what we mentioned earlier on, that one of the, if he wasn't such a huge stage actor, because stage is kind of what Langella is kind of best known for, and that's where his home is acting wise, so to speak.
Right.
So it's a shame because he could have had a great career as a cartoon voiceover actor, but because he does so much theater, that never happened for him.
I must also say the face makeup is really good, well done.
Yes.
Because I'm happy that they didn't just try to do a skull. Yeah. Because maybe now with the CGI they can do it right, but back then it wouldn't have looked right. And they did the makeup as good as it could be done, and it is actually pretty cool. And he still has the costume is very close, but it's not. It's mostly just black, which just it works pretty well. There's none.
It's much more down to earth. Purple. Because if you think about it, Skeletor's in the original versions, Skeletor's actually mostly naked because his skin is blue.
Yeah, pretty much. Like most He-Man guys.
That was a good effect. Another good effect we missed out on: crashing the hoverboard and it just catches a blaze like that. That was just really
okay, good. Here I think He-Man's super strength is a little bit more evident when he... And, Lundgren was a karate black belt, actually.
Yeah, he was.
Alive, too.
He's also got, a doctorate or in
chemistry, yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty smart, too. So, but
he's awesome in it.
Like I grew up with when I was a kid. I grew up with because I didn't even watch the Rocky movies for some reason. I only watched them recently, but I remember him mostly from this movie and Red Scorpion. I don't know if you remember that. That's one of his.
No, I haven't. And actually, that's something I wanted to get to. Actually, it's like talking about Lundgren's career post Masters of the Universe. Like he didn't seem to have like too many like key roles after this one. Like he didn't seem to be able to like break into quite the same A-list type of movies as Stallone and Schwarzenegger. Like he had his own like following, and he did a lot of he did like Universal Soldier with Van Damme.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like it's a shame really that Lundgren never quite rose to the same level of fame as those other action stars.
Like Van Damme had a time up to like Sudden Death. That was his last big movie, and Time Cop was probably his highest grossing movie, and Hard Target that was made by but I would say Lundgren was kind of like how Steven Seagal was, that once he had a couple of movies that became really big, but then he kind of drifted into what I call the action hero B movie star.
Yeah.
So he had a quite profitable career.
And that's not to say like Schwarzenegger didn't do like shitty movies after Terminator or anything.
Oh no,
he did a bunch of like that didn't do so well.
Collateral Damage.
Well, he always remained very popular. He always remained very popular, regardless of that. So
I haven't seen Collateral Damage yet, but there's Junior, of course. I haven't seen that one, but
Junior,
I don't really want to.
And Twins, they did really well in my view. Like the comedy movies actually did well, but it was like in the 80s he fell into that bit of that action niche. But when he broke out of
I want to say probably the strongest of that whole action niche was probably Eraser, probably the most generic action movie of all time.
Yeah, but that was in the late 90s.
Okay, it wasn't as good. But anyway, I want to say quick back to Gwildor. I like the effect. This is again great how they travel through the dimensions. This is like really good 80s effect stuff. And
yes,
like I don't know if you like this movie, you should check out movies like Krull, because it has also a cool kind of science fiction fantasy combination vibe to it.
Or even
which is
check it.
Krull.
Sorry. Talking over each
other.
No,
continue.
Go ahead.
Or even check out the TV show Sliders. Sure, that was 90s, but that
Sliders is also
I've seen
cool.
Sliders, yeah.
Well, it has the same idea with dimensional travel in general, and we have the cop. He has quite a lot of screen time, as I noticed. But that's not a bad thing. He's
one
a pretty
of the
cool
highlights
character.
like supporting characters in this movie for me.
Right. Now they discuss. Now they will discuss like, oh, we cannot travel anymore. It's broken, and it's like, oh,
this is also very
that's
upsetting.
nasty.
Yeah.
Skeletor zapped her with the poison, the disease that's now killing.
It's kind of a necrotic spell, something like that. You know, not just a simple lightning bolt, but like necrotic makes him even more evil. I like that shit like this was like okay, because nowadays it's like everything that has to be targeted for kids has to be like so okay, like constantly. I find it kind of, I don't know, like
there was a bit more lenience back in the day, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because
even if you look at kids' movies like The Secret of Nim or things like that, like there's a lot.
And I love this movie, and my mom allowed me to watch Secret of Nim.
Oh yeah,
she was pretty strict on stuff.
That's one of my childhood favorites as well.
She never allowed me to watch an R movie before I was actually 18. The truth is, I did sneak it anyway, but like
I saw the thing when I was like 7.
There we go.
Man, Terminator 2 was one of my childhood favorites.
I actually got my
grew up with Terminator 2. That I had a lot of friends who knew it, but I only watched it much later. I saw them in order. I saw number 1 first, and then the second one.
I got my grandmother when it came out when I was a little kid. Right, I was like 8 or something, and it came out. And I got my grandmother to go with me to the movie theater to watch it, and we got to the point where, she was so cool. But then we got out at one point, because it was a little bit too scary for me. But it's anyway. I want to say
this is one of my favorite scenes when he starts whistling the melody of the key. Yeah.
Right. This is so 80s and.
But yeah, it's a great melody too. Like that's the thing I want to give like props to Bill Conti, who did the soundtrack for this movie, and it's amazing. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite movies.
One thing I think the best Man-at-Arms and Tila moment. You talked already about this when they eat the chicken.
Yeah.
He says that it was living. How did they get this?
I wonder how they get the meat
on
the little white sticks.
Yeah. It's
hilarious.
That's
the thing. Like Man-at-Arms does get like a few great like war story moments, but. Tila is a little underrepresented. I mean, she joins in for the action scenes. Definitely.
It's good that she's here. I'm happy that they have. She's got
one really good line when they were fighting at the music store. Like she says, like it looks like this place needs a woman's touch, a woman in arms.
Right.
The thing I like about Tila's portrayal in this movie is she's both sexy and strong. Like the good combination of.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is that this didn't delve into that unfortunate pitfall that was on the Filmation show, where they sometimes made Tila like a real meathead at times.
Yeah.
Some of the bad episodes.
Yeah, I don't know. They couldn't decide if she's a damsel in distress or like a tough like warrior chick. You know, it's okay, but I think they did well here. One thing I always liked if they would have more characters from the cartoon show, but on the other hand, I find it cool that they had. I mean, Gwildor is pretty funny, and I like I like Sauron.
Yeah, to me, the fact that the Beastman and Evil Lyn are there, it's like the bare minimum of the Skeletor henchmen.
You know, at least
and also like it's a streamlined action movie, so it would have been kind of jarring if like Stratos just showed up out of nowhere.
As a kid,
even as much as I love,
one of my favorites.
I love Stratos. Oh, by the way, this little pig man holding the staff was a kid. Was a little kid won a contest here in this movie.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome to enter that.
Yeah, but it was a really last minute thing because they had the competition while the movie was shooting, and so this was really at the tail end of the shoot.
There we go. It's fine now.
Okay, one thing I will say, they got the staff of Skeletor right.
Yeah,
I like that.
That was the first. That was literally the first thing.
Oh, okay.
Staff.
Just had to
have
say
staff in the thing, and little things like that. It helps to keep the feel of the original Masters, but also it gives it the movie twist. Like I think this is a great example of how you should do a Toyline movie.
Yeah,
it's like you get the iconic details right, but then you can riff it and you can make it work for your world.
Right.
Like I don't know what your two opinions are
am I the only one
of G.I. Joe movie, but I actually liked it.
Am I the only one bothered that you can see his nostrils through his actual nostrils through like the netting of his nose in that shot? Like with the way the light.
You know, it's honestly it works as well as it should. I mean, it's you can see that the black is actually not like it's not like an indentation, but it works for me. Oh, this is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna put the sword here.
Now and forever.
And it's they got the basic story right, so that's the cool thing. And what the G.I. Joe movie? I thought it was okay. I was never that big G.I. Joe fan. I like
me neither. But I would say that I still enjoyed it a lot more than let's say the first Transformers movie, which I didn't have I didn't have a problem with it either. But
I walked down
but
the
cinema
on that one.
I hate the Transformers franchise. I liked the first one somewhat, but I was also very intoxicated when I watched it, so my judgment was impaired. The other ones
it was a little sensory overdrive for me, but I always enjoyed it for the special effects. I felt that the level of detail for the transformations that they did was quite exquisite, actually.
The problem was the Transformers weren't the main characters; they were like the main supporting characters, and it was all Sam Witwicky.
Yeah.
Oh,
here's the laser whip.
Now I noticed the emblem on his chest. It actually does look really cool.
Time for the obligatory Devo reference. Crack that whip. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Give the class a slip.
Yep.
Whip it into shape. Shape it up.
Anyway, as as a kid, I thought that was always cool because I always imagined, in Star Wars, when they had the lightsaber, why couldn't they have like a laser axe or a laser flail?
Yeah, that's a definite like fantasy thing like that makes absolutely no sense. Not that a lightsaber actually makes sense.
No, it would.
But
You
yeah,
would.
it's
You
still
would
cool.
die.
I admit it's really cool. It's really friggin' cool.
It's stupid. Yes, it would never work, because you could never dodge your own thing, and you would kill yourself in 2 seconds, and it would be death sentence. But it can work.
Oh, come on, Darabka. Everyone knows the real life lightsaber is you grab a torch and you just swing it around. You turn it on and you just swing it around like it's a lightsaber. That's what I did growing up. Play with
Casio keyboard.
Yeah. That's
That could be a product placement, or it could not be, because back then they weren't as sensitive about that. Like sometimes
I'm pretty sure
product names would end up in a movie regardless. Yeah.
Yeah. What I thought was cool in general was the whole idea that you see here they have these kind of Sam Witwicky characters, just a normal kid. It caught up in the whole thing, but with Transformers, Sam Witwicky was way more portrayed than the actual characters, and he wasn't likable at all.
It's weird. Like maybe it gets a little overbearing for the human characters in that, but generally I have a problem with wrapping my head around the Transformers franchise anyway, and I always wondered why are the humans there anyway.
You see, but here, you know what you had Sam Witwicky was with Shia LaBeouf, and they had the chick who was just literally there to show her ass, and I didn't care if they lived or died. Here, the two characters are much more likable. I'm not saying they're acting as Shakespeare-esque or great, but it's good enough.
But it has more subtlety. It has more subtlety to it, so I guess that's why it works. It doesn't feel like overbearing.
It also feels like she is, more like a normal person and not like sexualized or anything, Like when you look at the chick in Transformers, she literally the first scene you see her freaking ass in the camera, and it's really uncomfortable. But anyway, I'm not gonna even. I don't know.
Well, let's not turn to the Transformers commentary because Skeletor.
There we go. No.
Big moment.
I find the human characters much more likable.
I would say we might have to actually commentate on the animated Transformers movie as another episode.
That's actually a good one, yeah. I'll say this, including this, the cop guy, the human characters again, they're much more likable, and there's a much more, and it's just done better, And you can have human characters that are not the main guys.
It's just that they don't bog down the movie at all. That's probably the main difference.
Exactly. I think also with the whole transforming a toy line into a movie, with Transformers, a lot of the things that were cool about the Transformers was kind of removed, and it was done. I don't know, like with He-Man, I find with this one.
Let's not talk about Transformers now because it's transformation time for Skeletor.
Right. Skeletor has his great moments.
Now you can see opening.
Here we go. Here's an awesome shot right here.
Oh yeah.
This is a pretty cool set too. I mean, it is different from how Grayskull was, but it's still very cool.
Yeah. And that's another little thing maybe that I would have liked to have there been more exterior shots of Grayskull, because we don't really see it at the beginning and then sometimes off to the distance, but this is really, and what I love about this is that it starts very subtle, like with the glow around his, and then we start to get a little electrical effects.
Yeah.
You see this like flowing through his hands into his eyes and everything.
This is very well done, and this is all like
it keeps getting bigger and bigger as the scene goes on, and
this is all animated with like basically like
it's literally animation cells.
Yeah, so it's like there was a lot of work.
This is a little dodgy with it right now, but it gets better. It gets better in the next scene when it starts to radiate outward.
And this is the only time when you see Skeletor's skull actually yellow.
Maybe that was done intentionally.
I'm thinking like maybe the reason why his skull is yellow isn't because it is yellow, it's because of power.
The energy is like pumping out of him.
Also what I want to say is that when I was a kid, what I really enjoyed is that Skeletor finally got his big wish. He got the sword and he got the power of the universe, basically. But
Yeah.
he always wanted it even in the old comics and everything. He always wanted to have the sword of power and the power of Grayskull, because that's literally because I always say the Masters of the Universe, and it's basically here they say
the cross that it creates with the brightness.
Yeah.
And now it's a big obnoxious headset.
Yeah, it's a little bit, but
it's a little gaudy, but he's a god now, so it's appropriate.
I think he is. I think he created the armor himself, kind of like Green Lantern creates his own costume. And he might be a little bit. He went a little bit over the top, but I like that. It's okay. It's supposed to be over the top because his powers are now over the top.
All right, and now it's time to do the musical number.
Oh yeah, dude.
I know I say this a lot in this movie, like one of my favorites, but there is a lot of good stuff in this. Like one of my favorite effects is coming up right here, and you'll see it in a minute. That's with the.
I also love that they take part of the wall behind them.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for.
And part of the car. It reminded me when the Terminator traveled through time, kind of thing. When this energy sphere is created and then he just appears. That's what it reminds me of.
Now, I will
say
like with that teleportation thing. I always pictured like a I should probably just wait until they actually teleport first. It would make more. Oh, here we go. This thing the set right here when they hurry up. I want to get to my point. 3, 2, there it is. This thing here, I always pictured like a robot chicken like skit of like them teleporting here, then it shows what's happening back there, and it's just a whole bunch of buildings falling over because they're taking out the load.
It's literally a hole, basically.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a supporting wall.
Yep.
Oh yeah, this is a great. What I love is Lubick gets to join in with the shotgun.
Yep.
After this beginning madness.
I always imagined that the cop guy should have his own toy, It's just him with a shotgun.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that would have been the most coolest thing ever. There's a lot of characters, even in the cartoon, but also in the movie that I always wished had toys, and I thought as a kid it would have been cool to have also, like, a movie version of He-Man and a movie version of Man-at-Arms and Teela. Also the guy with the shotgun.
I always thought there should have been like a Happy Meal set of this, like with that little like set of like the wall, the half car. With
Nobody takes butt shots at Lubick.
Yeah, that could have been a playset actually.
Yeah.
If I think about it, That would have been.
Look at this. Just
or have the car.
Friggin' shotgun.
The car's vehicle. That's fucking hilarious too.
Not even a laser gun, just a regular shotgun.
You could always say, like if you're really like, maybe why does the shotgun, affect the guys in the super armor? And like, why not? I think it's hilarious.
Well, they're designed to be.
They're like the stupid stormtroopers. Yeah.
Well, it's doing them short range, so it's the appropriate range for the gun anyway. So.
Well, there's really no bullets in the He-Man universe, so they're not designed to be bullet resistant.
Maybe, yeah.
But they're not laser resistant either. It's the Stormtrooper syndrome, basically.
They are just mooks, mooks to be killed, so it works fine. And I was just saying, I think it's cool. Also, this set is pretty cool. I said this before, but we don't get to see a lot of outside. We don't almost get to see no outside shots from Eternia, but we do get to see at least the inside of Castle Grayskull, which was really cool.
Yeah, and it's more regal actually. It's not like a big rocky. Well, it's
like
cave, cave, yeah, in the cartoon show.
Yeah.
I love that. I love lightning.
It's actually more feels like a good castle. Where Castle Grayskull felt pretty dark in comparison.
Yeah,
which was cool too, but this is also like here's like shows
it's a bit more. I think it's a bit more like there's a bit more mystery to it, and like I said, like the big army and everything. Like there's the whole with this movie, there's the whole backstory of a war basically, and that's why the stormtroopers, if you will, are there. It makes more sense for Skeletor to have a big army, whereas in the cartoon show it was more one-on-one. It was more like a superhero show type of dealio.
Right. I found it interesting that Evil Lyn, Beastman, and the white-haired dude, Card, they flee before the fight is over.
Yeah, but she already knows he's gonna lose.
Yeah.
And here we have it.
Oh, here we go. While we've all been waiting.
I have the power.
which is a really hard line to say, like, convincingly. Like, it almost... I always seem to... John Irwin really, like, set a amazing precedent. Like, I don't think Gary Chalk or even Cam Clarke did it really well. It's surprising, like, 3 little words, but it's hard to say, like really convincingly.
Right. It's pretty corny if you...
It's his best shot, basically.
I think he did it pretty well, and the physical part he did really... This is so awesome.
I love this.
This is basically what...
This is definitely one thing I wish I had seen in the Filmation cartoon, that this is something that was missing from it. Was just a good old-fashioned one-on-one brawl between Skeletor and He-Man. And
the new cartoon...
This was shot after major, like, what do you call it? The main shoot had already ended when they did this. This was post, because they ran out of money. And
okay.
Yeah, so they had to basically just go back and quickly get this all over and done with.
They did it well, though, because this is kind of the moneymaker. This is what all the kids want to see. They want to see Skeletor and He-Man fight, basically the big fight. And it's really cool because the new cartoon, the 2002 one, they have moments where they fight actually one-on-one.
A lot more in the new show.
In the new show, what I liked is that Skeletor's sword is actually, he can detach it into 2 swords.
Yeah.
And that is a reference to the old mini comics, because they used to be 2 swords. But anyway, this is pretty cool.
Tries to surprise him.
I like that when Skeletor depowers, they still continue to fight. So you have the classic He-Man and Skeletor fight, and this is pretty cool.
This is the part that reminded me most of Star Wars, actually.
Oh yeah,
it
definitely does.
It is literally ripped. They ripped this off of Star Wars, but you know what? It's okay. As I said,
a lot of movies actually have this falling.
Oh, you know how many
Star Wars? It's not dead though. If you check
I know.
The credits.
Spoilers.
Golan.
Spoiler.
You know that Golan Globus was already. They wanted to work on He-Man 2, a Masters of the Universe 2, and they started already work, but then the rights expired with Mattel. And you know what they did then? They used all the stuff that they had already, and they made the movie Cyborg, which was
Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yeah,
and it's pretty bad.
But he's a Eternian chick that he's
tried
to meet, and he's basically wanting to retire to Eternia.
And I love how he just also put on some Eternia clothes. Like, this is how he should have been as the toy. And it's just like, no.
There is a deleted. By the way, there is a deleted scene. There was going to be a scene where they showed a little vault with a NASA spaceship of things, and it was supposed to tie in that the Eternians actually came from Earth, but it got caught.
You know why? Because in the original cartoon Bible, that was actually a story. Not the cartoon Bible, in the Masters of the Universe Bible, that was the original story that they came to.
And they keep playing around with that idea, like on the Filmation show, that Queen Marlena is an Earth astronaut who came to Eternia. So He-Man's mom was a human in the cartoon show and everything. It was something that was supposed to go into this movie, but they ended up leaving it out, I guess, to tighten up the end, or maybe because they were just so out of money that they couldn't shoot it.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have King Randor or Queen Marlena, and it was like...
Which again, it's all part of that they kind of streamlined the storyline, which I don't think is a bad thing. Like it kept the movie tight, in my opinion.
It's okay. I think it worked well because, like, for example, when you do something like with Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the problem was they had way too many characters, and a lot of them were just there or just got killed, and they were just worthless. Where here you do focus on a few characters, and everybody gets a moment to shine. Even Sauron, he didn't really say anything, but he just looked cool and was an enemy.
Yeah, little ribbons on it, the golden ribbons.
Oh yeah. It's well, he's basically the Orko replacement, and Gwildor does really well with that, you know. Because I always liked Orko, and if you look at the ears, you can definitely see how he's a redesign. Mm-hmm. But this is like the ending moment. It's the very like, you know, everything is great and everything is awesome. I don't know. It's like, again, I must say, with today's movies, everything is so grim and like everything.
But then it does,
you know?
It does pull a little surprise, even though
it
seems like it's going very straightforward ending, and then all of a sudden we come to this. Gwildor did a little trick. He sent them back in time.
I was a bit I was a bit iffy at this at first, but then I thought about it, I was like, there's magic in the He-Man universe, so it makes sense in a way.
Yeah.
So, not only that, they have literally the power of the universe, and they just basically save the universe from evil. So I think, at first you can think, oh, this is too corny and too happy-endy, but then if you think about
but a lot of that comes out of nowhere.
She deserved it. It does, but I like it because she kind of deserves it.
Yeah, but that's what I like about it, that they don't telegraph it, so to speak. That all of a sudden he does say, like, I could send you anywhere into the future or the past, and at first she doesn't want to say. At the end she's like yelling out of the portal a little bit, but they don't really telegraph it. Like, you don't know, like, okay, did Gwildor hear her and just make some last minute
maybe it wasn't Gwildor.
But I would like to believe that he was like digging around the house anyway, Julie's house, and he must have found that same news story that Corruglator found about her parents being dead. So so he must have had that information before and calculated that that he would basically give this as a reward to Kevin and Julie.
I also love how 80s the bedding is, like the pajamas is. It's like so 80s.
What is this gown she has on? This nightgown.
Right. But
it's a lovely moment though.
Yeah, I think definitely it's a good moment, and it's how a movie should end like this, because you have to also understand this was mainly made for kids, so and I think it's more appropriate.
Yeah.
And
they still have the orb, which
still kind of cool
proves that it wasn't just a dream, that it all did actually happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they go to Castle Grayskull, which I think
kind of the iconic shot, isn't it?
It is.
He-Man in front of Grayskull saying, "I have the power."
And I like how they made Castle Grayskull also a pretty good miniature. So it's it's a great Golden Globus. I will say, definitely, if you don't like this movie at all, I definitely can tell you this was the best Golden Globus movie by far, which is not hard because most of their movies are crap. Including they made Superman 4, which is, I'm a huge Superman fan, especially the old movies.
There we go.
But 3 was horrible, but 4 was just like, ugh. But anyway, this is neither here nor there. Again, I really regret not coming earlier, but we did get to talk still quite a lot. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I still came in on a good time. But yeah, if we do this again, I promise I will fucking set everything on fire if I'm not on time. I don't know, but either way. Mobius did some designs. All right, he did some designs on the. That's why the sets look so cool.
He basically designed He-Man's costume and his look pretty much the way Dolph Lundgren looks in this movie. So he's the one to blame for the haircut if you didn't like that, Kaiser.
I think the haircut.
I thought it was
good. I mean,
appropriate.
It wasn't.
Okay, yeah. You were just talking about the mullet a little bit. But
well, honestly, this was a more 80s thing, but it's still...
I'm kidding. Yeah.
I think the haircut from the cartoon, even though it works in the cartoon, I think in live action it looks dorky.
Polka
so I am
have been a little too much.
It was like we don't have to be that exact guys.
Yeah.
We can change the hair.
That's what I was saying is that, with He-Man, especially like his Baldric, like how in the action figure it was just like a smooth piece of plastic with a cross on it, and now they add all that extra detail with emblem and everything. So they found like ways of really like incorporating the classic elements.
It's still the costume, and it still works really well. Like, I do like the costume, and Mobius is like a famous comic book artist, and it's great that they got him to do the designs, because a lot of this movie comes from the visuals, and they really did sell this with that. Although I thought the sorceress was, We're
gonna wait for the post-credit scene, though.
I was saying overall, the effects for this movie have aged really well.
Yeah, they have, and I guess because they used them where it was necessary, and they didn't like do them like too in your face. So yeah, it was a really like professional shot. It's a bit of a shame that Gary Goddard never got to direct another movie ever. I think he still works in the film industry, but this was the only feature he ever directed. because he did a really good job with this.
It's also a lot of, maybe he just didn't want to because it's very stressful to make a movie.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot especially if you're a director, you got a lot of responsibility and you got a lot of people breathing down your neck. It's
in this movie, like he had to do it all by himself because he did not have a second unit to help him like shoot with action scenes or anything.
I think we should
everything.
Hey, music's Purple Haze, Jimi Hendrix, good song. Purple Haze. I think we should.
Living in a Box is the one I always recognize.
We should.
The 80s.
We should really wrap this up though. So, any last words?
It plays the van when Julie gets in the van the first time. Yeah.
As I said, I'm happy that I still came and.
Special thanks to Casio. So product placement.
You see,
Casio helped save the universe.
There we go. They help save the universe. And I want to say this is a great movie, and I can recommend it to anybody, especially He-Man fans and fans of the 80s, and just general sci-fi and fantasy fans.
Yeah.
So here's the final scene.